U.S. market is already in big trouble, with extremely high mortgage rates and property values falling quickly. But here in Florida, it is about to get even worse. Today, we'll look into the renting situation in Florida and how it will only worsen. As though it is not hard enough being a renter in today's economy, a new Florida bill is planning on removing the many rights protecting renters from scams and such. Renters have for long been able to know in advance of rising mortgage rates, have their rights informed to them, and been protected from income discrimination. But this new bill is set to remove all of these. As you may have heard, a new bill is being considered in Florida that could strip away local government-approved rights from renters. If this bill is passed, it could have some truly devastating consequences for those who rent their homes. For a while, the prices for renters in Central Florida have been high, so already many are struggling to find good affordable housing in these areas. Very few housing options are affordable and prices are not getting much better. Out of every 100 rental units, only about 24 are actually affordable. Yet there is no problem with the amount of homes in Central Florida, but landlords are charging way too much for most people to live in these places. The rent spike has had significant consequences for renters in Florida, particularly low-income and working-class families. Many have been forced to spend a large portion of their income on rent, leaving them with little money for other expenses like food, healthcare, and education. Some have had to move further away from their jobs or schools to find more affordable housing, leading to longer commutes and additional transportation costs. Tenant advocates in Florida and across the country have been calling for policies to address the rent spike, including rent control, increased funding for affordable housing, and stronger tenant protections. However, such policies have faced opposition from some landlords and property owners who argue that they would discourage investment and reduce the supply of rental housing. There are several factors contributing to the rent spike in Florida. One of the main drivers is the state's strong economy and population growth. As more people move to Florida for work or retirement, the demand for housing has increased, leading to higher rents. Another factor is the limited supply of rental housing in some parts of the state, particularly in urban areas like Miami, Orlando, and Tampa. Developers have not kept up with the demand for new rental units, and many existing rental properties have been converted to condos or vacation rentals, further reducing the supply of long-term rental housing. Imagine being a renter in Florida, struggling to make ends meet and keep a roof over your head because of the high rent costs. Now, under this new bill, you could be at risk of losing crucial protections that you currently have. Landlords may be able to evict you without warning or cause, leaving you with nowhere to go and no recourse to challenge their actions. The bill could also take away the ability of local governments to regulate rental properties, which means that landlords would be able to operate with little to no oversight. This could lead to a surge in exploitative practices, such as substandard living conditions, exorbitant rent increases, and unfair lease agreements. Tenants would be left with no protection against these abuses and could be forced to accept whatever terms their landlords dictate. The impact of this bill would not just be felt by individual renters, but also by the local economy. As tenants are forced to move out of their homes and into other areas, consumer spending could decrease, property values could decline, and tax revenues could plummet. Small businesses that rely on the spending power of renters could also suffer, creating a ripple effect throughout the local community. Perhaps most concerning of all, this bill could create an unequal playing field between renters and landlords. Landlords would have more power and control, while renters would be left vulnerable to abuse and exploitation. This could lead to a decrease in affordable housing options, particularly for low-income renters, and make it even harder for those struggling to get by to find a safe and stable place to call home. In short, the passage of this bill would be a disaster for renters in Florida. It would strip away protections, erode local control, disrupt the economy, and create an unfair and unequal system. It is up to us to fight against this bill and ensure that renters in Florida are able to live in safety, stability, and dignity. William Kilgore is an organizer with the St. Petersburg Tenants Union who is actively fighting for more affordable rentals and more protections for renters. As he said, "When we organize, we make things happen, and it's a large percentage of the renter households in this state are going to be affected, and they're going to lose these newly found rights," as he expressed his worry over the current trend. The St. Petersburg Tenants Union is a grassroots organization that advocates for the rights of renters in St. Petersburg, Florida. The group works to address issues like unaffordable rents, evictions, substandard housing conditions, and discrimination, and to empower renters to assert their rights and demand better housing policies. They are against the bill and will not let it pass. So, the question you might ask, will this bill actually be passed? The fate of the new Florida bill to strip local government-approved rights from renters hangs in the balance, and the outcome is uncertain. Many renters and advocates are worried that this bill could be passed, which would have serious consequences for those who rent their homes. As the debate rages on, tensions are high on both sides of the issue. Landlords and property owners argue that they should have more control over their properties and be able to operate without interference from local governments. They argue that the current regulations are burdensome and costly and that they need more flexibility to make a profit. William Kilgore is worried that the bill could pass because of it getting a favorable vote from a House subcommittee. On the other side, renters and advocates are pushing back, arguing that these regulations are essential for protecting vulnerable populations. They point to stories of tenants who have been unfairly evicted or exploited by their landlords and argue that without these protections, renters will be left with nowhere to turn. As the bill makes its way through the legislative process, it is unclear whether it will be passed or not. Some lawmakers have voiced support for the bill, while others have expressed concerns about the impact it could have on renters and the local economy. For those who rent their homes, the uncertainty is agonizing. They worry that their rights will be taken away, leaving them at the mercy of their landlords. They worry that they will be forced to leave their homes and communities, disrupting their lives and upending their stability. As the debate continues, all eyes are on Florida. Will the state pass this bill and strip away protections for renters, or will lawmakers choose to prioritize the needs and safety of their constituents? The answer remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, the stakes are high, and the outcome will have far-reaching consequences for renters across the state. The current renting situation in Florida can be characterized by several trends. A high demand since Florida has experienced a population boom in recent years, with many people relocating from other states or countries. This has increased demand for rental properties, especially in urban areas like Miami, Orlando, and Tampa. Tight inventory. Despite the high demand for rental properties, the inventory of available units has been relatively tight. Many landlords are opting to sell properties rather than rent them out, or are converting rental properties into short-term vacation rentals to take advantage of the booming tourism industry. Rising rents. The combination of high demand and tight inventory has led to rising rents across much of the state. According to data from Zillow, the median rent for a single-family home in Florida increased by 6.4% over the past year. Eviction protections. During the coronavirus pandemic, Florida implemented a number of eviction protections to prevent tenants from being evicted due to financial hardship. While some of these protections have since expired, others have been extended or modified to provide ongoing support to renters. Political debates. As mentioned earlier, there have been political debates in Florida over the regulation of rental properties. Some lawmakers have proposed bills that would limit the ability of local governments to regulate rentals, while others have advocated for stronger tenant protections. The Florida housing situation for renters looks grim, and it is uncertain how this will pan out in the long run. But what most believe is that because of the high demand, more and more renting options will become available, and property owners overshooting prices will only lose money. This will let the prices plateau over time, leading to a more stable economy for the state, although how long it will take before we start to see this development is unsure. For now at least, we can only brace for the future of the state and hope that the housing prices go down and safety laws for the protection of renters stay in place. But how did the real estate market in the US get so flawed? Watch this video to find out.